Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Friday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist for the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. First graphic up is hazardous weather graphic, and the lit up area here is for the the Western Kenai Peninsula. That's a flood watch that will be in effect, or actually it's in effect now, but it's actually for the time period of, begins late Monday night and continues through Wednesday of next week. And that's due to the release of water, and it's for the area of the Kenai River below Ski Lac Lake. And due to glacier release, glacier dam release there, and so the levels of the lake by midday Monday, the levels of the river by midday Monday expected to reach minor flood stage, which is about 13 feet at that time. And so that gives you a whole weekend to get ready for a possibility of some minor flooding that may occur along the Kenai River below Ski Lac Lake. And moving on to satellite imagery, you can see low pressure out here spinning there northwest of the Pribilofs. Kind of a trough extending out of that brought some light rain, but really light rain. Only 0.03 of an inch fell at St. Paul today. And then that trails on down into a kind of a developing weak system here over the eastern Aleutians, warm front across the western Alaska Peninsula. But rainfall amounts are quite light with this system as well, with Unalaska, I believe, barely picking up 1/10 of an inch with that. And really nothing going on until you get out to Shimmy with some showers out that way of the light variety, possibly mixed with snow down to maybe even sea level. Weak disturbance here, mostly in the upper air, but again, very moisture starved, not a lot of precipitation with mostly over the Alaska range, and those amounts very light. And then some moisture also down here brought a little bit of shower activity at Kodiak Island. AKwx picked up about 1/100 of an inch, so it was very light there as well. That's since ended. Now winds behind that, with building high pressure ahead of this system, are gusting as high as 35 miles an hour at AKwx out of the northwest, and about 25 miles an hour or so, maybe even 30 there at Kodiak State Airport. And farther to the east, another weak low pressure area over the eastern Gulf of Alaska, and that brought kind of a widespread area of light precipitation from Yakutat all the way down into the Queen Charlottes there. Amounts of 0.2 of an inch, say at the Juneau area, or 1/10 of an inch at Yakutat, 0.2 in Juneau, and about 0.4 of an inch fell in Sitka, as well as down at Shelter Cove there. A little more widespread in the precipitation down here with the southern panhandle, but you can see a lot more moisture out here to the west. The open cell Q here indicating quite rather unstable air mass. So once those showers come on shore, they interact with the terrain and kind of just develop into areas of light rain. Otherwise, rolling this through again, dry from the Brooks Range on out to the Arctic coast. There's even some clearing. Winds quite gusty on the east side there, with 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts reported at Dead Horse. And central Arctic coast gusts up to about 25 or 30 miles an hour, and then over toward Kaktovik and Alpine Airstrip, gusts of 40 to 50 miles an hour occurring today out of the east-northeast, with big area high pressure up over the Arctic. On the chart today, you can see a couple of troughs coming through the southeast coast, and that kept it again cloudy and unsettled. Heaviest precipitation mostly over the south coast, central south coast, and some inland areas there in the upslope regions. Some clearing along the North Gulf Coast today. Same thing, western Copper River Basin. Had some light snow all afternoon fall at Northway, but didn't amount to too much, with liquid water content of about maybe 1/100 or 2/100 of an inch or so. Otherwise, areas of snow showers northward there. Missed the Eagle area, mostly east of the border, and quite light at that. Central Arctic coast, I mentioned, a little bit of light snow. Nome had as much as 1 inch of snow, although temperature in the lower 30s there, so it was kind of a wet snow that did fall, but they picked up 0.12 of an inch water equivalent. That's one of the heavier amounts, even more than down here with this weak system. And you can see some clearing occurring over the western interior today, and also out over the central western Aleutians, and behind this trough there may swing into the Pribilofs. Could see some breaks in the clouds, and also along the southwest coast. and starting to clear out with that northwest wind along Kodiak Island. Forecast for tonight, this system slowly moves eastward and that frontal complex mostly develops into a occluded front now, so really not much more development with this system. So periods of light rain, light winds, Alaska Peninsula, changing to showers and ending over the Dutch Harbor, Unalaska, and Nikolsky area. And Pribilof, still a chance of rain, and then kind of, or the showers here pick up west of Adak and Atka as a trio of troughs drop into that area. Dry, western part of the state, winds light, and dry up over the Brooks Range North Slope. Scattered showers here toward maybe Arctic Village, and still some flurries possible. And winds tending to diminish there over the upper Yukon Valley from what you saw today, kind of brisk, anywhere from 15 to 25 miles an hour, higher gusts at higher elevations. And so a chance of snow showers could affect the Eagle area, but don't look for any accumulations. Isolated rain and snow showers, mountainous terrain here of, from the Talkeetna Mountains up into the western Susitna Valley, mostly over the higher elevation of the Alaska Range. Most of this shower activity remains south of the North Gulf Coast there, and even the Kenai Peninsula, clearing out Kodiak Island, and winds diminishing as well later this evening, with actually going flat here later tonight. Isolated showers there, another band though right off the south coast. We'll see tomorrow that kind of just slowly edges its way northward, so periods of light rain tend to increase during the day tomorrow over the central southern panhandle, lighter amounts to the north, and still a threat of showers along the North Gulf Coast, maybe a little more into the Kenai Peninsula under easterly flow. Partly mostly sunny day, Kodiak Island, winds light, and that'll extend right up into the southwest part of the state and then northward across the western interior. On out to the Arctic coast, maybe some flurries here with a weak trough over the northeast interior, Eagle, Fort Yukon, Beaver, those areas, and maybe into the eastern Brooks Range. And that's about it. And for the Bering Sea, this front right along the Alaska Peninsula here, on up into the southwest coastal areas, and again some shower activity continues for the Aleutian southern Bering Sea. And then outlook for Sunday, that front pushes inland. Hardly even a front now. I could have drawn it in as a trough, but there is a kind of continuous band of light precipitation, narrow, here from Kodiak Island back up across the Yukon Delta and the Kuskokwim Valley, St. Lawrence Island, and cloudy, unsettled, but not too bad for the Aleutians. Winds on the light side, really light winds central and eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, and barely a breeze even out to the west. Dry over the interior here, increasing chances of rain, a little bit of light precipitation, southern Kenai Peninsula and in toward Iliamna Lake, Augustine Island, and the southern portions of the western Alaska Range, and then showers across the Gulf of Alaska. Not too bad though here for the Panhandle on Sunday, maybe some clearing central and southern southeast coast, as well as Juneau on up to maybe the Klondike Highway. Could see a little bit of afternoon clearing, and isolated snow showers for the Brooks Range. Lows tonight, 30s and 40s for the Panhandle, anywhere from 20 to 35, or call it teens to lower 20s, Copper River Basin, lower to mid 30s, south central Alaska to Kodiak Island, lower 20s in the Tanana Valley on down to Northway, and teens and 20s to single numbers by the time you get to the Brooks Range, and warming back up out toward the Arctic coast, 15 to 25, and mild over the Alaska Peninsula and the Aleutians into near lower 40s. Highs tomorrow, 20s to lower 30s on the North Slope and Arctic coast, near 20 Brooks Range, and upper 20s to mid 30s for the central interior, and again lower 40s south of the Alaska Range, mid 40s for Bristol Bay, and pushing 50 for portions of the Panhandle. Lows the following morning, not much change from what you'll see Saturday morning here. A little cooler over the interior though, but not too bad. Everybody above zero. And for the highs, 40s again, southern Alaska, 20s to near 30 on the Arctic coast.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
First line weather graphic for Saturday morning. We've got IFR here along and north of Unalaska Island to the western Alaska Peninsula. Most or all of the Aleutians marginal, most of the Bering Sea marginal VFR, and that marginal VFR, which will extend up across St. Lawrence Island and the Seward Peninsula, right up along the northwest coast, and VFR here into the western central interior. North Slope, Arctic coast, marginal VFR here from the southern slopes of the eastern Brooks Range, right on down across the upper Tanana Valley, and somewhat into the Copper River Basin, especially the west side, Prince William Sound. Starting out with some IFR Here it looks like, well, from the Kenai Peninsula up into the western Susitna Valley, and marginal VFR for the Panhandle. Afternoon, VFR here, roughly from maybe Sitka, Mount Edgecombe, or somewhere in there, on down across Prince of Wales Island, otherwise marginal, and that'll extend up along the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound. A little bit of improvement here. Some areas of marginal VFR there from Kodiak Island up across mostly western Cook Inlet and along the eastern slopes of the western Alaska Range, and then on up toward the south side of Windy Pass and eastward there along areas of the Alaska Range. Otherwise pretty good out here from Bristol Bay right on up across the central and lower Yukon River Valley area, as well as the Kuskokwim Valley. Marginal VFR, Kobuk, Koyukuk. VFR, though, north side of the Brooks Range, back to marginal out toward the Arctic coast. And areas of marginal VFR with here at central eastern Bering Sea, would be some areas of VFR for the following morning. On Sunday, we've got a batch of IFR with the next system coming into the western Bering, otherwise marginal. Possibly VFR there for the Fox Islands, Alaska Peninsula. But as you head northeastward there, east of Nelson Lagoon or so and Sand Point, you run into some IFR chances. Pretty good here over parts of the interior. Looks pretty marginal though for the upper Yukon, Koyukuk, Kobuk, Noatak Valley area, Seward Peninsula, North Slope looking good. And for the southeast coast, mostly marginal. Marginal VFR continues there for the Panhandle right through Sunday afternoon. Yakutat, though, VFR up into the Wrangell Mountains to the central Copper River Basin. And here from the central interior, roughly actually the Tanana Valley there, the Greater Fairbanks area, westward to the Seward Peninsula, Norton Sound, VFR. Zone of marginal stuff there north of there, and then from the Brooks Range there on out to the Arctic coast looking pretty good. A little bit better chance of marginal on the west side. Bering Sea Aleutians mostly marginal. Passes for tomorrow, Anitukvik VFR, split the difference here. I think it'll be enough moisture toward Adigan to go for a kind of a marginal VFR kind of day there. Lake Clark and Merrill, lowest flying conditions will be on the eastern approaches, but starting out IFR there, becoming marginal into the afternoon. And for Rainy, it looks marginal to possibly IFR at times. And for windy, we've got VFR on the north side, otherwise marginal VFR, especially the southern entrance through most of the day. And for Isabel, occasionally marginal. Mintasta should be a VFR day through the pass, maybe some marginal VFR southern entrance. And for Tanita, marginal VFR to start early and then becoming VFR by mid to late morning. And Portage marginal. Chilcoot and White marginal VFR. Freezing levels here at the surface tomorrow morning, hugging the coastline all the way around except for cutting across Lynn Canal Glacier Bay, 2,000 feet, almost right on top of that into southeast Bering here, then along the Aleutians. Icing, not really a whole lot. Got just a chance here along that really weak boundary, frontal boundary here, maybe some mostly areas of light rime icing, light mixed icing, western Aleutians, and mixed light icing there for the southeast coast. Upper air charge, jet stream now south of the area here, although there is an upper trough here swinging through the Panhandle associated with that weak zone of icing, big trough of the Bering Sea. 3,000 or 9,000 feet here, 15 to 20 knots, and maybe 10 to 20 at the most over the interior, and about 20 knots here for the Aleutians, maybe 25 eastern Arctic coast. 3,000 feet, could be 30 up there, otherwise not too bad wind-wise anywhere around the state here, maybe 25 knots out over the far western Aleutians, 15 to 20 for the Panhandle, and turbulence, not a whole lot of anything significant, maybe a little bumpy there for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, and out over the far western Aleutians, light to isolated moderate chop, otherwise pretty smooth everywhere else. After the break, I'll be back with
Hello, I'm a GOES-R series weather satellite orbiting 22,000 miles above Earth. I can see a lot of cool stuff from up here, and I take pictures of it with my spiffy camera that has 16 different settings. I have such good eyesight, I can see clouds, snow, smoke, smog, and ash, so I can warn you about dangerous conditions and help you avoid them. When storms are brewing, I watch them closely and help with hurricane, tornado, and flood warnings to help keep you safe. And my lightning mapper tracks lightning strikes way up in the sky, even through dark, dense clouds. I also help with search and rescue missions. I listen for distress signals from emergency beacons and tell search and rescue teams just where to find people who need help. But even when I'm keeping a close eye on Earth, I'm monitoring weather out here in space, too. I watch the sun for big bursts of energy, which send waves of radiation toward Earth that can affect power grids, block communication with planes, cause errors in GPS, and damage satellites. Space weather is also very dangerous for astronauts working outside the International Space Station. I warn them so they can get inside where they'll be safe. So the next time you watch a weather report or check your phone for the forecast, remember, that's me. So look to the sky and wave. I'll be here. Whoa! Things are looking pretty bad down there. But don't worry. I'm going to give weather forecasters a heads up and help you stay safe. I'm a GOES-R series weather satellite, and one of my jobs is to keep an eye on Earth's weather as I orbit above. But I'm 22,000 miles above Earth. How does your local weather forecaster know what I see all the way up here? First, I have to figure out what's going on. I point my special camera at the Earth and take pictures of the clouds I see below. My pictures show where the clouds are, but I also take lots of other notes about the clouds. For example, how high they reach into the atmosphere, how much rain they might cause, and when a severe storm may be forming. But I can't keep all of this information to myself. I have to share it with weather forecasters down on Earth. A big antenna is waiting for my call. Since I'm a satellite, I send my pictures and notes in a computer language of ones and zeros. Luckily, the antenna speaks my language. Computers connected to the antenna organize my notes and combine all of the pictures and cloud information and translate them into weather maps. They send a version of the maps back up to me. I'll hold on to these for later. Another copy of the maps is split into smaller pieces. This helps the maps move faster from one place to another. The map pieces are then sent for processing before being sent back up in the sky to a communication satellite. From there, the maps are picked up by antennas at the National Weather Service forecast offices in each region. There are more than 100 offices. I also take the maps that I received and send them out to companies that specialize in making the maps more colorful and better for viewing on TVs and computers. The colorful maps and the maps from the forecast offices then go to your local weather forecaster. The forecaster combines the information from these maps with lots of other information, like model forecast data and radar data, to make predictions about the upcoming weather in your area. And that's how I help you find out if bad weather is going to ruin your afternoon plans. You're welcome. Soon it will be my time to shine in outer space. I'm the GOES-R satellite. That stands for Geostationary Operational Environmental Satellite. And the R stands for my order in this series of weather satellites. Like my older siblings before me, I'll do a lot for watching weather, but I'm pretty special because I have a lot of new gadgets. I'm originally from Colorado, but my journey to space has a few stops along the way. I'll be shipped in a very special satellite shipping container to Kennedy Space Center. Moving me around is not easy. I'm over 18 feet wide and weigh 6,000 pounds. And then things get really exciting. I get loaded onto an Atlas V541 launch vehicle. A big rocket! Woo! After Atlas and I blast off together, my compartment separates from the launch vehicle and I continue to climb higher and higher. Then I break away completely and unfurl my solar panel and antenna. After that, I have to use my thrusters to get into just the right position, 22,000 miles above the ground and traveling 1.9 miles per second to keep up with Earth's rotation. And then I can officially start my job along with my fellow GOES sisters, where I take advanced pictures for more accurate weather forecasts, map lightning in real time, and improve the monitoring of the sun's activity. It's going to be so awesome! I can't wait!
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Today's sea ice analysis. Not much change from what we've seen the last couple of days. Outlook is for not much change to occur, except probably a little more expanding up here. But the main drift, or the main direction, will be from east to west due to those easterly winds, persistent easterly winds. And probably by the end of the next 5 to 7 days, we'll start to see some new ice form along the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, especially south of the Barrier Islands. Coastal water forecast, south coast of the Panhandle, not bad, south-southwest, 15 knots. East-southeast, 20-25 in the north coast with seas as high as 12 feet. Light winds, light variable winds over all of the inside waters at 10 knots with slight seas. And for the outlook for Sunday, south winds 20 knots now for Clarence Strait and seas at about 8 feet, and north 15 for the central and northern inside waters with 3-foot seas. Southeast winds 20 knots, seas as high as 15 on the extreme south coast, and east-southeast at 15 on the north coast. Prince William Sound, light northeast winds at 10 knots. Same thing for northern Cook Inlet. Otherwise, the North Gulf Coast, east at 20. Forecast for tomorrow with seas 5 to 7 feet, north 15 the Barren Islands, southern Cook Inlet into Kamishak Bay, northeast at 15. Outlook for Sunday, northeast 10 for northern Cook Inlet and south of the Forelands. Same direction, but stronger, only 20 knots though. Southern Cook Inlet and Kamishak Bay, east at 20 for the Barren Islands and the western North Gulf Coast over toward Middleton Island, southeast at 20, and winds remain light in Prince William Sound out of the northeast. And for Kodiak Island, winds becoming variable at 10 knots with weak ridge axis moving across the area tomorrow, so no concerns for winds tomorrow. And small craft advisories for the Alaska Peninsula, west to northwest, 25 to 30 knots, seas and winds highest here south of the Alaska Peninsula along those southern marine zones, east 20 for Bristol Bay. And the outlook for Sunday, southwest at 10 for Bristol Bay, otherwise east at 10 here on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula. Pacific side, south 15, Castle Cape to Sitkinak, and up the east side of Kodiak Island, westerlies at 15 knots with 6 to 7 foot seas. Fox Islands tomorrow, again, we'll split it. Unmak Island, west 15, seas 7 feet. Unalaska Island, 25 to 30 knots out of the west, seas as high as 10 feet, 15-knot winds for Adak and Atka. And the western Aleutians around Amchitka Island, west at 20, and out toward Chimney-Attu, west at Kiska, northwest at 25. Those will fall back to about 20 knots, so areas west of Adak, northwest 20 on Sunday, 8-foot seas. And the central Aleutians here, west at 15, west 10 to 15 knot winds turn southwest across the Fox Islands. And for the southwest coast, along the Kuskokwim Delta coastline, we've got southeast winds in the forecast at 20, east 20 for the Yukon Delta coast. Small craft advisories there, northern Bering Sea around St. Matthew Island for east winds at 25 knots, west 15 for the Pribilofs, east 15 for St. Lawrence Island. And for Sunday, Easterlies 15 to 20 knots here from Norton Sound across St. Lawrence Island. South winds for the southwest coast, only 10 to 15 knots, seas 4 feet. South 15 for the Pribilof, seas 5 feet. Northeast 25 for St. Matthew Island, seas at 7 feet. And we got gales again tomorrow for the eastern Beaufort Sea coastline there. 35 knots, trending down through the afternoon. Otherwise, 30 knots, small craft advisories all the way over to Cape Beaufort. Then really dropping off Cape Beaufort to Cape Thompson, 10 knots, Cape Thompson to Bering Strait, 15 out of the east. And a little more variation on the wind direction for Sunday. We've got east 15 knots, Wales up to Cape Thompson, 10 knot winds from Cape Thompson up the west side, turning southwest, and then back to southeast at 25 on the central Arctic coast, and 30 knots, pick up to east 35 knots. So 2 more gale force wind days coming up for the far eastern Arctic coast. And for tonight, basically fair and dry for the most part. This area here along the trough, just flurries, maybe some skiffs of light snow west side of the Arctic coast there, clearing down the western interior, and diminishing showers for the Panhandle. Occasional light rain, fog, drizzle, Alaska Peninsula, ending over the eastern Aleutians, eventually the Pribilofs, otherwise showers to the Bering Sea, and that continues into tomorrow. Along that frontal boundary either side, light rain or showers, and lowest flying conditions, of course, across the Alaska Peninsula. Mostly sunny day, hopefully, for Kodiak Island. Light winds right up the west side, same forecast. Western half of the state, eastern half, a few more clouds, and a little bit better chance of some light precipitation chances, and kind of a chance of showers for the Panhandle, but better on Sunday. Chance of rain Kodiak Island on Sunday. Thank you for joining us.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.